All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. We're joined now by Dr. Eric Claville. If you're a regular viewer of the program, you know him well. He comes in here quite often to help us break down politics on every level, national, state, and local. And this particular election is unique because I think it applies to every layer of politics you can think of. I'm wondering, when it comes to this redistricting referendum, is unprecedented a word that can be used to describe what we're seeing here?
Well, I think unprecedented is an understatement. What we're seeing now is something that really has never taken place before in our country. And that is what we're calling the redistricting arms race mid-decade. Usually redistricting across the country in every single state takes place every 10 years at the end of the U.S. Census. Lines are redrawn based upon the shift of population. But the reason why we are voting today here in the Commonwealth of Virginia is because the President of the United States requested Texas and other Republican-led legislators to redraw their lines to give the Republicans more of an advantage in the midterm election. So with that, the state of Texas obliged. The Supreme Court rubber-stamped it and said it was not unconstitutional, even though a previous 20 years ago, Texas tried it and it was deemed to be unconstitutional. With that being the case, California answered that call and redrew their lines and basically evened out five for five. Since that time period, you have North Carolina, Missouri, and also Ohio that redrew their districts mid-decade and added 4 more seats to the Republican slate, leaning seats, I should say. So the Commonwealth of Virginia has answered the call to help bring balance back to Congress and add 4 more Democratic-leaning seats for the midterm election coming up here in November. Now, some may say that this is on a national scale to help balance out the seats in Congress, and that's the House of Congress. There are 435 seats. But others in the Commonwealth, those that oppose this, saying that this is going to eliminate representation, especially in Republican districts. So either side, you're looking at a very important question, a very simple question. Yes, you support this constitutional referendum to allow a temporary change to our congressional districts from 6-5 to 10-1 Democratic leaning. Or you say, no, we want to keep our 6-5 representation, 6 Democratic and 5 Republican, and let other states decide whether to help balance out the powers to be in the House of Congress.
And you laid it out there, yes or no, and here's why. And we've obviously been over it here on our show. And despite this, anecdotally, just within my life, I have found that people are still a little bit confused. People who are paying attention and politically motivated, but maybe not day to day like we are working in this job and in this industry.
Right.
Why has this election, what are the factors that have made this difficult for people to ascertain exactly what they're voting for?
Well, to your point, number one is unprecedented. We've never had to vote like this before, but again, it's because of an unprecedented request from the White House. The second reason is that it's many layers. It's a temporary change to something we do once a decade, but we don't even have to vote for it. We have a commission, and before that, the legislators actually redrew it, the lines themselves. And these lines are done once a decade. You kind of really don't even think about it. There are constitutional checks and balances. And, of course, in the Commonwealth, we have a check by the state Supreme Court to ensure equity and fairness in the redrawing of lines, to ensure that individuals are represented fairly across the board, not just on the congressional level, but state level and local level. Now, the interesting thing about this referendum also is that not only is it temporary, which means that in 4 years, in 2030, when the U.S. Census comes out, the lines will be redrawn anyway by the commission that the voters agreed upon. But then also, this only affects congressional districts. Your state representation, your legislators will not be impacted. Your local legislators will not, commissions and council will not be impacted. Only congressional. So it becomes very confusing in that way. For those reasons, and then many others. And then also for those of us that have seen the many advertisements that come on television the text messages that we get, the mailers that we receive. You have individuals that are for the referendum on the Democratic side, such as former President Barack Obama and, of course, current Governor Abigail Spanberger, that are saying, vote for this referendum. We support it. But then you get another mailer that says, Barack Obama says, we're against this. We're against gerrymandering. So it's the back and forth, the confusion as to who to actually understand and who to believe.
And, something we chatted about before that I'm wondering how big of a role you think it plays in sort of that question that we just talked about is there's no face to the two sides of this campaign. There are no candidates. There are no personalities to latch onto and to remember and to identify specifically with a certain party. How big of a role do you think that plays here?
I think it plays a huge role. Usually in elections, there's one message you galvanize around, right? Or there's one candidate, the top of the ticket that you look to that carries the rest of the ticket. We have none of that here. This is really a philosophical question that has real life impact. In other words, if you believe that the president is doing a great job, if you believe in the policies, if you believe that what he's doing should receive more support on the Republican side, then you vote no for this referendum. But if you believe that the president and the policies that the Republican Congress is not are effective, or they're speaking for the people or represent the issues of the people, then you vote yes in wanting more Democratic control as a check and balance only to those policies. That's really the nuts and bolts of it. If you really want to bring it down to one message. However, there are many messages out there, and there's been a large increase in early voting. And I believe that this will probably not, if not equal, or break the record of the 2025 gubernatorial election. And rightfully so, because you have 4 Republican districts, really all 5, that will be redrawn, and 4 that will actually more than likely lose their voice or seat in Congress until, again, the commission redraws the lines in the next 4 years.
And that's you mentioned how much participation there is already, how much is expected, but you had an anecdote when we were kind of chit-chatting before we started here that may actually lead to a slight decrease. People are struggling to know exactly where to vote here?
Yeah, I actually received a phone call just this morning by someone who went to go vote from a voting location that they normally would go to, and they were turned away. But not just them, but others, because that's the place where you early vote, not actually the place where you vote the day of. So I believe, and so they're going to have to actually vote after work. Now, of course, we know how it is here in Hampton Roads and across especially Northern Virginia, whether it be Richmond or other areas that are highly populated with a lot of traffic. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, So this election will be impacted by many, many variables. But make no mistake about it, as I always say, as Virginia goes, so goes the rest of the country. And this election, I believe, if it will have the impact of swinging the balance of power in Congress, which will determine the path for the president's administration and the policies for the next remaining 2 years of his presidency.
Okay, and those early polling locations, those were only through Saturday. Those are now closed. I know I voted today at my normal polling location where I vote in every single election. So those early voting locations, those are no longer the go-to spots. That ended on Saturday today. Go and find your polling place. We have a voter guide on 13newsnow.com, or you can easily Google where to find your polling place just to make sure everybody's fully prepared here to go and get their vote submitted. Is there anything else that you want to highlight here about today, about this election, as we kind of await results?
I would just say, whether if you are confused, make sure you go to the resources here on 13 News Now that they have at the Virginia Elections Bureau. Take a look at it and talk with your friends and talk with those that you trust. And we're going to be doing analysis here and also on tomorrow. But make sure you exercise your right to vote. Don't not just vote because you don't understand it, but make sure you understand it. Go to the poll, exercise your right, because as Virginia goes, so will the rest of the country.
And, typically we would bug Eric for another 15 to 20 minutes here, but we are going to get to speak to Dr. Claville tomorrow. Once we have the results, we'll break everything down, how this shook out and why. That's coming up tomorrow. Thank you for, as you said, 2 days in a row. This is kind of a special treat here from Dr. Eric Claville. We appreciate you as always. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.